middle of summer, like hot mess of summer. It's
Yeah.
already June and it's already blazing hot. And
Yeah.
I'm regretting this decision to have a summer break. We should have just kept those kids in school.
You're funny. When it's the dead of winter, you're like, why is summer break so short? Why could we could go on a long trip if the schools would give us time off.
When it's the dead of winter, I'm just ready to curl up and die. And when it's the dead of summer, I'm just laid out and nobody bug me.
Wow. I was like, laid out in what? Okay, so
we needed an escape.
Yeah.
So we scheduled some podcast recordings, brought in.
which is great because last week our team called us together and said, we've been brainstorming. We're thinking about these things, maybe kicking off in September. And
We were like,
What?
We have stuff to talk about now.
we're going to need out of the house at least once a week, every week of the whole summer, no matter how long a summer, series of the podcast lasts, we're going to need to pretend like we've got something to do once a week all summer. So here we are.
Let's schedule some stuff. I've got some things on my calendar, kids. You'll have to take care of yourselves.
Yeah. So we called everybody together and here we are.
Here we are.
Talking about
Summer break and
surviving summer.
Surviving summer.
Yeah. So where do we start?
Well, a lot has happened.
Yeah.
A lot has happened.
Our last episode, I can't remember when it aired, but it would have had to have been April-ish.
Aired
It was still cold outside
Maybe
in
aired in
Tulsa.
April. But my summer break started in April when I left town for 10 days on a trip to Israel with my husband and his school cohort. So
Right.
I had a little tropical vacation there. We went to Rome. It was a fast and furious trip.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't really a vacation because we were walking and touring miles every day. We went to Rome, Greece, and then Israel, and it was amazing.
And you said not really a vacation because we were walking, but we did go on a vacation this summer where we also walked. So what made Israel not as much of a vacation? It was still a class for
Yeah,
WIT.
it was.
Still a learning environment, which is fun but can be exhausting. Walking that much, learning that much, all in a very short window of time.
Yeah.
But I didn't get to go. I don't really know how it was. I bet it was great.
It was great. It was really, really great.
Okay.
You should have been there.
Oh my goodness. We'll move along in a second, but real quick, what was your favorite thing? Because I actually had somebody text in asking, will you guys ever record a podcast where we get to hear about Heather's trip to Israel? So who knew? But evidently, I think it was an international listener that said, I'm
Okay.
kidding. I'm just kidding. It's somebody from the church.
My favorite thing was we'd actually, it was in Israel, and we landed in Tel Aviv and then went to the Sea of Galilee. And, you basically drop your bags, go to bed, and then get out and start touring. And there's no leisure time to explore on your own or do anything like that. So we get into this hotel that we're staying at, the Sea of Galilee. They take us on this all-day tour of these amazing old places, ruins. I mean, we went to this hill where you could see the layers of where town had been built upon town, like every 100 years or so, whatever it was, like somebody comes in and wipes out the community, and then a new community comes in and builds on top of the old community, and you can see the layers of it. And we'd been walking around in these dusty old ruins. And they're like, all right, when we get back in, we'll get back at 4:00, and then we need to meet in the lobby for another tour around the ruins that are around the hotel. And at the hotel, you can see as you walk down the hallway and out of the lobby, there's all these windows, and you can just see these ruins that are probably about 2 feet tall, but you can see rubble and walls and things.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, and something old again.
Sure.
And you're just thinking like it's no big deal. And so we get back and we all meet up to go on this tour of the ruins that are right outside our hotel, and it's a town called Magdala, which is actually where Mary Magdalene would have been from. And what's crazy about this is these ruins were discovered just about 10 to 12 years ago when
my
the
goodness.
owner of the hotel wanted to build the hotel. And they had to do this
permit type of
archaeological
stuff, yeah.
scan. Is there anything under here to dig down to that you're going to bump into something historical? Well, they did. They bumped in. They're like, well, there is something here, so they have to start digging. But they said, but there's nothing here, so you can build a hotel right beside it. So they're building the hotel and they're uncovering these ruins at the same time. And they discovered a completely untouched town on the Sea of Galilee. And they knew it was untouched because in AD 67, the Romans came barreling through, just destroying everything, killing everyone in their path, essentially.
Wow.
And they know because there's the road, it's barricaded still to try to keep the Romans out. And they found coins everywhere in the town dating. And then what they discovered was the townspeople, everyone had fled to the sea and was going to try to get into boats and get away. And they did not get away. They were actually all slaughtered. And there might have been a few people that survived, but essentially nobody was left. And so the town was completely deserted. Nobody ever went back there and re-inhabited the town. And eventually, when you're building something in those old times, you just take pieces of what's ever been deserted and you start rebuilding somewhere else. So they'd taken the rooftops and part of the town and moved it to a new town and rebuilt. But what was left was about 2 feet of the actual footprint of the town. I mean, you can see everything, the roads, the layout.
That's fascinating.
It is incredible. This will be the last thing that I share, and then we can move on to more fun stuff. But so the whole synagogue was there. There are 8 known first century synagogues. And we know when we read scripture that Jesus went through around the towns around the Sea of Galilee and he would have gone to all the synagogues. So you know that he was at that synagogue. And then close by the synagogue is a house with a mosaic tile floor that matches the tile in the synagogue. And I mean, it's still there. In the outline of the house, you can see the front door, you can see the windows, and there's this beautiful courtyard in front of the house and a mikveh, which is a ritualistic cleansing bath outside the house. And so you know that this house was leader of the synagogue's home.
Crazy.
And this is where he was. And the mikveh, there's these baths all over town. They're still all over Jerusalem, have running water still. Like these people 2,000 years ago developed running water for their
you've
town.
You've shown me a picture of this
Yes.
where the water's still running.
So they have these freshwater baths that are continually filling with fresh water. Anyway, so you see this Jewish synagogue leader's house. And what we don't know from scripture is when Jesus is in a town and the woman with the issue of blood is like, if I'll touch his robe, I know I'll be healed.
Right.
So she reaches out and touches his robe. And at the same time, there's this person that says, Jesus, come to Jairus, a synagogue leader.
I call him Jairus.
Jairus.
Well, I don't think that's his real name. That's just what I call him.
Jairus. Come to Jairus' house. His daughter is dying.
Right.
Come to his house, and he gets interrupted by this woman. So you don't know what town it is, but as you're standing there looking at this synagogue leader's house, which Jairus was a synagogue leader, you're just looking at the front door and thinking, Jesus could have walked through that front door and said to that little girl, wake up.
That's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
I really need to go and visit the Holy Lands. I feel like it's okay if I share this with you and our friends, but like when I read the Bible, although I believe it's true, I've never been to those places, so it's very hard to wrap my mind around. It's not really just kind of a fairy tale true. Like it's true and this all matters to me, but I mean, it's very hard. So hearing that is really interesting.
Yeah. So when you go, I mean, this little town, the way it's, I mean, it is still the little town. You can visit Capernaum, where Peter was from and where Jesus spent a lot of time, and there's a temple there. But they've actually tried to rebuild the temple to a certain extent. Just, it's not fully finished, but they've rebuilt it so you can kind of get an idea of what
You're
it was.
you're waving your arms around, and I do care about your story, but while you're waving your arms around, what else did you do while you were on that trip?
Oh, I got a tattoo.
I just saw it. I was like, oh my gosh, you've had a wild summer already.
I know. I'm wild. It was wild times in Jerusalem.
The oldest tattoo
artist.
Artist? I was going to call it a tattoo parlor, but that makes it sound really makes it sound really scandalous that you're in a parlor.
It's a 700-year-old tattoo parlor, I think, with 1300-year-old tattoo parlor with 700 generations. Maybe I think it's that.
Okay.
Because we met
so what would make
27
what would make a
generations.
pastor and his wife go tour the Holy Lands and be like, while we're here, let's get tatted up?
Because this particular tattoo shop has been in business, I think, for 700 years. And they have been tattooing pilgrims to Jerusalem for 700 years. In the days of the early church, or in times of persecution, you had to have a tattoo. Sometimes you had to have a tattoo to be able to get into the church. So the church could not be infiltrated by people seeking to...
Oh my goodness, that puts a whole nother spin on this story. When I was an intern at our church, so I was like 22 years old, and I have a tattoo on my ankle, which is a whole nother story.
I love that story.
Okay, so I got a tattoo when I was 18. We took shots, and then we went to get tattoos. I wasn't saved. And we got in there, and there's all these pictures all over the wall. And I'm looking around, and I'm just like, I don't like any of those pictures. So I take a napkin, and I just start drawing my own picture. I am not artistic or anything. So I draw this little tiny flower. And I was like, I like this flower right here on my ankle. And that's what they put on my ankle.
It's like a kid's, a grade school type flower where you do the little loops for every petal. Yeah.
It's really, in fact, when I do, because I can't draw at all. And when I notice, even still to this day, sometimes when I'm like doodling, like when I was in COTMU and I just be doodling, listening or whatever, I draw that little flower often, that like 7-year-old girl flower. But anyway, I don't know how I got so off. I just thought I also have a tattoo and I want to talk about it. Oh, I know. When I was an intern, I was giving a tour of our church to some children's pastors from another church. And I just had shorter pants on and sandals. And this pastor, now granted, this was 20 years ago, so 2000. So times were different. Times were different in 2000. But this children's pastor said, "Excuse me, does your pastor know you have that tattoo? I'm kind of surprised he would let you work here." And I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure he knows. I don't know. All right. And it just kept going. But just like, I just gotten saved. I just thought, wow, what? And at this point in life, it's no big deal. But very shocking. I was just like, I need to make sure
that
I'm not in sin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my tattoo is the Lamb of Victory.
Okay.
And it's a stamp that's 300 to 400 years old. So what they do is they just it's carved out of wood, and then they stamp it on here, and then they tattoo it in. But so this is a stamp that people have been getting for 300 to 400 years old, for 300 to 400 years. And it's called Lamb of Victory. And then I added these Greek letters, Jesus Christ, Nike, our English word for Nike.
Just do it?
Yeah. No, victorious conqueror.
Oh. Okay, I was like, wow. She put Nike's catchphrase on her arm. I'm sorry.
No.
I was just like, this is like, how did I not know this? You've been home for so long. I'm sorry.
No.
It would be more like me to just do it on my ankle, not you. Not you. You would do.
So it was a wild trip.
Oh,
Whit ended up getting 3 tattoos because
all
he
at one time, 'cause why not?
wanted things that were meaningful to him. One of them he got was the resurrection. All of them are hundreds of years old stamps. And so one of them was a resurrection because it's so symbolic to his own life.
Sure.
And then
King George slaying.
He got a King George slaying the dragon, and then he got the Lion of Judah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys took a short trip from the church and came back all tatted up. So
That's the last time they let us go to Israel.
that's so true. So that doesn't feel like you were surviving, though. That feels like you were thriving.
It was
the beginning of your summer.
Yeah, it was a great way to kick off summer.
Heather, while you're just traveling the world and you were living your best life, getting tattoos.
Yeah.
I was home, and I'll say my summer started early also, even though that's not exactly true, but this story kind of ties in on the same timeline as yours. We're wrapping up COTMU. I'm wrapping up baseball season and a million games. It's that month of every parent's life where it's just like, and I get it. So teachers, no reason for hate mail or anything. I get it, but it's just like every class, award ceremony for this, high school party for this, sports banquet for this, and you're just like, oh my gosh, for the love, every day, every night. Let's go to the zoo on a field trip. Let's have a fun run. It is a lot. In a normal season, it's a lot. In a season for me, it was too much. And I didn't see it coming. So last season we talked about I went off my antidepressant. I was doing so good, and what I didn't know was there is often a possibility of a rebound syndrome where you hit a real low and don't see it coming. So you were traveling, and I remember now looking back, I remember being irrational, but it didn't feel irrational at the time. Like, Brian's in school and he's getting his master's, and he wouldn't mind if I say this. He's a terrible writer. His original degree was civil engineering. He's crazy smart. He understands things ways a lot of people don't understand them, but then putting them like on paper, typing them out is very hard to understand. So I often proof his papers or whatever. I remember a particular day, he was like, hey, would you look over this paper for me? And in his mind, when I proof a paper, I'm like adding a comma and correcting the spelling of one word. But in my mind, what I'm doing is going like, oh my gosh.
You're taking on an editorial job.
Yes. Like I read it and I go, oh my gosh, I know exactly what he means. I throw it all out and I start piecing it back together. And it ends up being several hours. He's always like, I don't want you to spend that much time on it. And I'm like, but I know what you're trying to say, but nobody reading this is going to know. Well, perhaps I'm over-functioning every time he says, could I have a little help with this paper? But it sent me into a complete tailspin. So what does that look like for me or for someone who has previously or maybe currently battling depression? I can only speak for myself, but it sent me into a spiral and I didn't recognize it. So I'm going to edit this paper, but I was thinking, here we are. I've got there's 7 baseball games this week. There's a class party this week. I haven't done my COTMU homework. And so I was like, and he said something that honestly, he didn't say it rude, but I heard it rude. Like he said it kind of like, you can't just look over it for me. And I heard it like, if I was a good wife, I would just quit everything else I was doing and look at his paper and make it right.
Yeah.
So now that's a whole nother issue, but that's what I heard. So I'm like, my COTMU stuff down. I'm not going to that class party and I'll show you and I'll write the best paper you've ever seen in your life. And it just, I didn't recognize it that day and it just kept compiling. And I didn't recognize it until it was really bad. So until I was like so mad at everybody and really, really struggling. And then really struggling with the fact that let's be honest, I just told a whole we joke about international listeners, but we have a lot of listeners. We legitimately have a lot of listeners. I just told everybody how proud I was and how hard I've worked. And I was really going under. And so then you guys got back from your trip and Brian's like, have you talked to Heather? But I was so far in. It was so heavy that it's just like, oh my gosh, she's been gone for 2 weeks. And then I have to think about what happened. I don't have the energy to talk to Heather. And he's just like, we live in community. This is not healthy. And then I'm a failure again because I can't even call Heather and Heather's not going to mind, but I'm not willing to call her. And Brian's nudging me. And anyway, he told me.
I hate that I wasn't like
This is all part of my story, though. It's all part of my story. It's okay.
Well, I know, but I mean, even though there wasn't anything I could do from halfway around the world, and time difference and everything,
dysfunctional. I was too dysfunctional to even like. If you would have been in town, I maybe wouldn't have called you. Yeah. Which is horrible to say now, but now I've told you, so now you know. So maybe
now
next
we know.
time.
So next time we'll know better and do better.
Well, know better and do better. But it was so heavy. I work at the church on a very part-time basis, and my work is cyclical. So like I have a busy season, a slow season, a busy season, always. I've known this for years. It's what I do. But I talked to my boss and I quit my job again, which I've done before, because like I don't have anything to work on. I mean, like I'm not adding any value anywhere. And he's like, what's going on? And so then I'm like, I'm so mad at Brian. So then like my poor boss is just like trying to catch me in that moment and unsure of like, whoa, is their marriage falling apart? Is there, because everything was a catastrophe? Yeah. He's like, I feel like maybe you're catastrophizing everything. And I was mad at him. And I'm like, I don't know why you won't just listen to me. I'm just trying to quit. We don't need to talk about any of these things. And that's about the time when I was like, I think I might be spiraling, like, And anyway, it was a slow claw your way up and out of that pit, which also included meeting with a girl from our cohort who, I mean, she's not a doctor, but she's a nurse. So I was just like, am I crazy? She really said some things that really helped me and encouraged me to get back to the doctor and all the things. And so it was weird. Like once I started letting it out, it was like a relief valve. Like once I was just like, I'm not doing okay, I felt better. Good and bad, because you feel better and you're just like, oh, that's all I need. All I needed this whole time was to tell somebody I'm not doing great. Okay, moving on. So I wasn't going to let that temptation set in to not get help. So where am I now? I didn't go back on an antidepressant. And the reason was it was going to take 2 weeks or so to start making a difference. We were getting ready to go on vacation. School's over. I thought there's a chance that if I can get a reset, that I'm back in a good place again. And so then I did my least favorite thing in the world, which I might tear up, which is fine. But I made another appointment with a psychiatrist. So I wanted to switch psychiatrists because I was telling my friend Hillary, I was like, I don't even think my psychiatrist knows what he's talking about, because he just talks to me for like 2 minutes and is just like, let me write your prescription. And I'm like, I eat healthy and I exercise and, I'm still like, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, okay, how about this? He is kind of older. He's probably seen a lot of people. You might be saying something that he recognizes real quick. He might be real smart. Why are you so afraid of taking the medicine? And she said it's super nice and everything. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go back to it. She's like, okay, who are you going to go to? Which is fine. So anyway, I made an appointment with supposedly the best psychiatrist around, and I can't get in until July, but I thought that's good because I'll go on vacation. I'll feel better. I'll be laying out at the pool and I'll be getting sun. I'll have no stress because school's out. I'll feel everything.
Be exercising.
Yeah, it's like everything's going to be, and I'm glad I didn't go right back on because right now I feel fine. What I need to know from somebody smarter than me is it normal what happened? And if it's not, is there a way to heal my brain? And if there's not, what should I be doing? But I was mad because I've done everything the doctors suggested might work. And truth be told, I think I'm gaining a little bit of weight being off that stupid antidepressant, which, I'm just like, I'm working out. I'm eating all this like rabbit food. I found the rabbit food that I think tastes real delicious, and I think I maybe overdo it. But anyway, so as we talk about surviving summer, it's like really real.
Yeah.
Surviving summer. Like it sounds all great in theory, like the sun's going to be out and we can go to the pool. But
there's still work to do.
Yeah, still work to do. So what else have we started off the summer with?
Well, after getting back from Israel, getting ready for my daughter to graduate.
Oh, yeah, like you got back and she graduated like 1 week later.
Maybe 2 weeks.
Okay.
I think.
I don't know. All that time.
Anyway,
all that season was dark.
It went by so fast. She state track meet and everything, which there's heartbreak in that story.
Sure.
Oh my gosh, that was so sad.
Just that it was over?
Well, no, that was sad that it was over. She showed up at the state meet I could tell as she was walking out the door that morning to get on the bus, go to meet up and get on the bus. She was already emotional, but apparently by the time she got to the bus, just crying, tears, just couldn't stop.
Yeah.
And then they run in a relay race that is the very last event of the whole meet.
Day.
The whole meet. It's a 2-day.
A 2-day meet, the whole 2 days.
The whole 2 days they run in the very last event. It's a relay. And there was a new girl on their team. And when the race started, we all saw it, and she jumped the gun.
Oh, no.
But the starter didn't see it.
Okay.
And so they ran the whole race. I think that they ended up coming in third, but they ran an amazing race. And it wasn't just because the girl jumped the gun.
Sure.
But they came in third, and it didn't change their points really, or it would have changed their final standings a little bit, but not enough to make a huge difference. Anyway, somebody reported that they jumped the gun, and so they took that medal away from them. And like my daughter's very last race of her high school career, they took her medal away, and she didn't get to stand on the podium. And I'm in the stands watching as the coach comes and tells them that they actually are disqualified, and you just see them all break down. I think it's 2 seniors on the team that are best friends, and I mean, everybody's just heartbroken. I mean, that was so hard to watch that, and there's nothing you can do to make it better.
It makes me think we have already been on vacation this summer, so maybe we'll talk about that soon.
Yeah.
But Lucy, you said one night at dinner, Lucy, and then my son, who will be a senior, we're all sitting together, and you said, Lucy, what would you tell Cooper? What's the number one thing going into his senior year? And she said, do everything.
Yeah.
So she finished strong, had
She
fun.
did. She did.
She said, a dress-up day that you don't care about, dress up anyway. Just all the things.
Yeah.
So fun.
Anyway, so we'll leave you guys with that. We're going to come back because this is a really good escape from...
We're coming back weekly for sure, for a little while.
And we'll just keep talking about how we're surviving summer.
Yeah, some fun stuff, some serious stuff. We'll just tell all. So maybe next week we'll talk about our vacation, and you don't want to miss that episode. So join us next week for Life in Motion, where we are together surviving summer. Come along with us.